talkSPORT today actually announced we've got exclusive radio commentary of that fight. How big is that for the station? How big is this fight?
It's enormous, Andy. This is the biggest fight of Anthony Joshua's career, frankly. So much riding on it. It's very expensive. Sky Box Office have got it, of course. I think it's near enough £27. We've got our dedicated team, myself and Adam Catterall, Spencer Oliver, Andy Clark. Adi Oladipo is out there as well. He'll be doing some reporting. We know on the station that all the Tyson Fury fights we've done do huge numbers. We know that outside football, I suspect that boxing, these big events, is a massive event for general sports fans as well as fight fans. And can't wait to get out there and bring everybody the inside track news from the whole week. We'll be out there in Jeddah, out in the bazaar with my hookah pie and my cups of tea, bringing you every tiny little detail. Massive event for Anthony Joshua. We heard there that he's got to go in there and be rough, tough and ready on Saturday night, on fight night. Even Gennady Golovkin is coming on, and he's going to be telling me that Anthony Joshua needs to refine that animal spirit within him that took him to those 3 world heavyweight belts, first of all, in a matter of 17, 18 fights.
Gareth, you said something that was quite interesting there. You said that this is the biggest fight of Anthony Joshua's career up to date. Is that because either way, if he wins, of course, and we know that he's going to be pushing for that Fury fight, but what happens if the worst comes to the worst and he loses?
Yeah, it's the biggest, it's the most important kind of crossroads of his life. He could become a three-time world champion if he wins. We know that Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk are the 2 toughest fights stylistically for Big AJ. And so he didn't go well at Tottenham Hotspur on September the 24th. He couldn't deal with the style very well. But he didn't leave it all in the ring, and he knows that. The fans know that. The boxing world knows that. So it's how he's a very rich man already. He's incredibly successful. He manages other boxers now. He's earned probably close, thinking about it, to over £150 million from his boxing exploits. And this is an opportunity to show that he still has the mindset, the hunger, the desire, and go in there as the underdog. He didn't go in there as the underdog against Andy Ruiz in the rematch. In Saudi 3 years ago. So everything's stacked against him. It's the manner of his performance. He can lose this fight, but it's what he does in there that's really important. If it's an amazing fight and he gives his all and it goes to the wire, that's absolutely fine. He's lost on style alone. But if he goes out there and he puts Usyk away, and I think he's got to do it within 6 or 7 rounds and really take it to him and be a bully in there and be aggressive and be big and bigger as he is, then it's redemption time. Redemption is always an amazing thing in sport, and nowhere more so than in fight sports.
Gareth, let me ask you, the first fight you talked about, AJ was totally dominated by Usyk, completely. And I think he's got to completely change his approach and his style and just how he's going to take on a fighter, a real difficult opponent. And the reason I'm going to ask this question, I remember when he lost to Andy Ruiz Jr., and it was just an embarrassment, the way he got beat by someone that had really he had no right to be in the same ring. I know you get upsets in boxing, even more so in the heavyweight division. But here's my question. When we saw the rematch, right, I didn't see the Joshua that convinced me the first fight was a fluke. I just saw an Anthony Joshua that was scared to attack, was quite defensive, and just sort of punched and got through the fight to win on points. I personally can't see a different Joshua to take on Usyk. I just don't think he's got it in him. Do you? Do you think we're going to see a totally different AJ step into the ring?
I think so. I think he's had to rediscover his mindset. You're not wrong. And the word we use in boxing, it's not necessarily scared, but it's gun-shy. And he was gun-shy against Andy Ruiz in the second fight. And he stayed there behind his very big, very long jab. Nothing wrong with a bit of that against Usyk, by the way. But he's got to impose himself and not let Usyk find a rhythm in this fight, and that crab-like movement that he does from the southpaw stance to find the angles, which he did very early on in that fight. He was popping Joshua with punches that Joshua didn't see coming. And that's what Joshua's got to do. He's got to be more of a ring general in this fight. He's not going to outbox Usyk, which is what he tried to do the last time. The tactics were wrong. Every fight's different. The 3 Tyson Fury fights against Deontay Wilder were all different. Most trilogies are different. They're different fights. Fighters in different stages of their career. For me, it's all about mindset. Whether he truly believes. He knows he's been picking up on the things like, you know, the marks on Alexander Usyk's face last time. They'll be looking at the rounds where he did have success. It was, look, Usyk outboxed him. He didn't beat him up. Joshua had moments in that fight. Rounds 5 and 6, they'll look at those rounds when he was going to Usyk's body. They'll look at what Chaz Witherspoon did and putting pressure on Usyk in his first heavyweight fight. What Derek Chisora did early in the fight, the first 6 rounds of the fight on that Matchroom card, you know, when he had his second heavyweight fight. They will look at all the positives of Joshua from the first fight and they will try and build on those.
Gareth, we always concentrate on AJ. We know he got beat and Usyk's the favourite, but we always seem to concentrate on Joshua and what he could do differently in this second fight. What about Alexander Usyk? Because obviously he knows he's beaten him already. What will be going through his mind looking at what happened in the first fight?
Timing him if they get into a firefight, timing him and looking for the knockout, working on what people call Joshua's vulnerability around the whiskers. You know, in that last round, he seemed to have him almost finished on the ropes there, you know. AJ was still avoiding punches, but, you know, Usyk said quite cleverly after the fight that he was told by his corner not to finish AJ. They were looking at a second fight. I don't know about that. I think there was some of that is afterthought and strategy. But he will be looking to, he's bigger. He looks physically bigger. We've been around him. He knows that he's going to probably have to get into a firefight early in the contest. That's the likely means of attack from Joshua in this fight. Robert Garcia is an attacking trainer. He teaches his guys to attack, to be first with the punches. So Usyk is going to be the same as he always is, really smart in there and looking to time Joshua. He'll be looking for the knockout as well, but I think if the fight goes longer, it doesn't bode well for AJ. Okay,
before I let you go, just give me one name. Who'll be the winner?
I've got Usyk in this fight, but I would love AJ to win because we'd all love to see Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury, I think.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.